I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. During Senate floor remarks on Tuesday, Senator Sherrod Brown endorsed Stephen Dettelbach, President Biden's nominee, to be the director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Brown touted Dettelbach's support from across the ideological spectrum, including law enforcement groups, former ATF directors, and faith-based organizations. The senator also addressed opponents who believe the ATF should be abolished, saying, quote, "That is one stupid idea." Here's more from the Ohio Democrat.
Together and take another important step in protecting Americans from violent gun crimes by confirming a permanent ATF director. I urge my colleagues to support President Biden's nominee, Steve Dettelbach from Cleveland, to the director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. No better person for this role than Steve Dettelbach, a son of Ohio, a career public servant with the experience and the record to combat violent crime and keep Americans safe. As U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Ohio, Steve worked with law enforcement, including ATF, to prosecute tough cases. I've known Steve Dettelbach for years. I've watched him tackle some of the Department of Justice's most sensitive cases at the intersection of law enforcement and civil rights. He prosecuted a white supremacist who tried to burn down First Azusa Apostolic Faith Church, a predominantly black church in my wife's home county of Ashtabula in a community named Conneaut, Ohio. Steve not only prosecuted the man responsible, he helped create a clergy group, United Against Hate. When he prosecuted the firebombing of the largest mosque in Northwest Ohio, Steve, a practicing Jew, attended worship services there as a show of solidarity. He's lived the value of religious freedom. He's consistently stood up against extremism and hate. Steve Dettelbach understands that politics must play no role in running the ATF. His experience, his record bear that out. It's why he has broad support from across the ideological spectrum, including prosecutors, including law enforcement officials who understand what it takes to do this job. This includes law enforcement groups like NOBLE, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, the Hispanic American Police Command Officer Association, Women in Federal Law Enforcement, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the Major County Sheriff's Association, the National Sheriff's Association. It includes more than 140 former federal prosecutors, 8 former ATF directors, Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, the association representing the men and women of the ATF. He has the support of civil rights organizations, the National Urban League, the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, faith organizations like the Jewish Federation of North America. They understand that Steve is the right person to lead this vital law enforcement agency. Following the horrific shooting in Highland Park, local law enforcement was able to capture the murderer so quickly because of the help provided by the heroes, the men and women of the ATF. Yet there are some out there that not only don't want an ATF director, for whatever reason, they may oppose Steve Dettelbach. That's not even it. They want to abolish the ATF entirely. That is one stupid idea. You know who thinks it's a terrible idea? Every single law enforcement officer who has to combat gun crimes on a daily basis. They know how important the ATF is, even though some fringe politicians and just some fringe conspiracy-minded characters think the ATF should be abolished. Abolishing the ATF, these law enforcement officers argue, rightly, abolishing the ATF would make our communities less safe. In their letter endorsing Mr. Dettelbach, the National Sheriff's Association said in that he would work to bring people together, quote, people together by working closely with state and local law enforcement to ensure that resources are adequately allocated to combat violent crime. The sheriffs went on to write, they appreciated Steve's, quote, goal of being a value add to local law enforcement by not only adding resources to urban areas, but rural as well. Rural crime and rural terrorism and rural abuses like that are just as likely in rural areas as cities. Mr. Dettelbach has emphasized the importance of boots-on-the-ground task forces. He's pledged to provide forensic help to local law enforcement at crime scenes. Sadly, our local law enforcement personnel need this help. Fortunately, the ATF, with Steve Dettelbach, I hope confirmed and soon at the helm, will be there to provide that help. I can think of no better way to support law enforcement, to reject hate, to keep Americans safe from violent crime than for the Senate to confirm Steve Dettelbach, ATF Director. I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting his confirmation.